So there's a couple things to address before the start of what I talk about in a minute here with Giannis, and that's the fact that this finals was so good. This finals was probably one of the best finals that I've ever watched. It's one of the best finals that we've seen in the past 5 or 6 seasons, and it's one of the best seasons and ends to a season that I have ever seen. It's one of the best seasons that I think the NBA has showcased in a long time, and it goes from individual performances from a lot of guys like Kevin Porter Jr. for the Houston Rockets, even though the Rockets were a terrible team. KPJ had 50 and 11, I want to say. You have teams like the Warriors and the Lakers, who were two NBA powerhouses for the past few years, with LeBron, with the Lakers, and with Steph, Clay, and everybody in Golden State playing in a play-in game to even make the NBA playoffs. Like, this was one of the best seasons we've seen in a long time. The next thing I want to say is I'm going to make a video about the Phoenix Suns and what the future holds for them. Spoiler alert, if you watch the video. I don't think the future looks very good for Phoenix. I really don't. But I'll get into that in a video later. So Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak, the guy who I believe Mike Breen said was selling DVDs and CDs in a vendor's booth on the streets in Greece when he was a young kid. Like, what Giannis has come from a personal background, from a professional background, from even a basketball background. I think Breen even said that Giannis didn't start playing basketball till he was 12 years old. Like, what we got to watch tonight from Giannis, when I'm recording this, it's tonight. But I guess when you're watching, it's going to be last night. So what we watched last night from Giannis is probably the best individual performance I've ever seen, not only just in an NBA playoff game or a finals game, just in any single game ever. That's the best individual performance I've ever watched, because not only did the guy have 5 blocks on the defensive end, he routinely throughout the game was controlling what was happening around the rim on the defensive side of the ball. And not only was he doing that, he was scoring 50 points. He was grabbing 12 rebounds. He was making, I think it was 16 of 17 free throws, something like that. He made at least 15 free throws tonight. I think he shot 90% or better from the free throw line. Like, the mark of somebody who is, what I'm going to get into in a minute is, how should I say this? The way that I think a player enters the conversation of being the best player in the world or one of the best players to ever play the game is the fact that every player is going to have some sort of weakness. Even you look at Michael Jordan. His weakness was the fact that he was not a great three-point shooter. Same thing could really be said about LeBron and his defense. You look at Steph Curry. He's not a great defender. You look at guys, any guy who has been considered the best player in the league or has been considered one of the best players in NBA history has a sort of weakness. But when it comes to championship time, the thing that separates them from the other guys that we start to consider as great players is the fact that they take their weakness and make it almost a strength. We've seen MJ knock down 6 threes in one half, I believe it was, against the Portland Trailblazers. That's when the shrug was born. We've seen LeBron James have incredible defensive moments like the block against Andre Iguodala, or moments where he looks like, even though he's not a great shooter, he's still a knockdown three-point shooter sometimes. Steph Curry, we've seen him step it up on the defensive side of the ball from time to time and take that weakness and make it almost into a strength. Tonight we saw that with Giannis Antetokounmpo. His one real weakness was that he could not make free throws in the NBA. And with what he did tonight, I think, in my opinion, he really should be entering the greatest of all time conversation. Now, what I'm going to say next is probably controversial. It's probably not going to be liked by everybody. But in my opinion, at the moment, I would have LeBron 1. I would have Michael Jordan 2. I'd have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar 3. I'd probably have Bill Russell 4. And I wouldn't go as far as to say that right now Giannis deserves to be in a top 5 to top 10 player of all time category, because I think at this point it's unfair to just automatically give that to him now when he probably could earn the number 1 spot by the time he is done playing basketball. Right now he's 1 for 1 in the finals, and he's proven to everybody that he could win a title in Milwaukee. That's something that only Kareem and Oscar Robertson really could say that they have ever done, is bring a championship to somewhere like Milwaukee. Other guys like Magic, who played with the Los Angeles Lakers, or Larry Bird with the Celtics, those guys didn't have a terrible franchise to bring back from the depths of NBA hell, as I likened the Suns to in my last video. The Milwaukee Bucks won 15 games the first year that Giannis was there. And I think the first year that the Milwaukee Bucks made the playoffs with Giannis Antetokounmpo, the last game that they lost against the Chicago Bulls, they lost by like 60 points. This was a really bad franchise when Giannis took over. And to see what he was able to do going from a 15-win team to a team getting bounced in the playoffs, losing by 50-plus points, to a team now that is winning in the NBA Finals, winning Game 6 almost handedly. Even though the game was tied going into the fourth quarter, I think everyone just felt like the Bucks were going to win. And that's the kind of effect that Giannis had, not only on this game, but he just had on the whole entire playoffs for the Bucks. And it really shouldn't go without saying that this guy, it looked like he broke his leg a week and a half ago, and now he's shutting down everything defensively. He's becoming an incredible offensive force who not only can dunk over anyone, he can get past anyone with his speed. He looks like he's improving a little bit as a ball handler. He looks like he can pass out the double teams a little bit better than he probably was last year. He just looks like an ultimate player. And I started thinking about it earlier. I started thinking about, this thought of who is the next Shaq in today's NBA. And the guy that I've thought for about the past year or so is that Giannis is the next Shaq. Like, it's obvious. Giannis, and if you look at Giannis and Shaq at this point in their career, or at least like the early stages of their career, their body type seems similar. Their ability to dominate the game seems similar. Their skill set seems similar. But at this point, that almost seems like it's disrespectful to Giannis, because Shaq didn't win a finals. Shaq was not able to be the guy to win a finals with the Orlando Magic. He had to leave Orlando to get that title with the Lakers and Kobe Bryant. Giannis built this thing in Milwaukee. Giannis and Chris Middleton built this thing. And even though Giannis and Chris Middleton, I should say, even though Chris Middleton is responsible for building some of what happened to Milwaukee, if the Milwaukee Bucks were a house, Chris Middleton is probably the walls. Giannis is everything else that makes the Milwaukee Bucks great. And, Chris Middleton held up this team in the moments that he had to. But Giannis was really the guy that he did everything tonight. He did everything from free throws to, I think he knocked down a three. He pulled up in transition, I want to say, at one point during this game. Like, Giannis did everything. And like I said earlier, he took his one weakness of free throw shooting and made it his strength tonight. And he punished the Phoenix Suns for trying to exploit that. I don't think Shaq could ever do that. I really don't know if anyone in NBA history, in a Game 6 of an NBA Finals, for someone like the Milwaukee Bucks, who, like I said, was in the depths of NBA hell when he took over the reins. In my opinion, Giannis at this point has to enter the greatest of all time conversation with tonight's performance. And by the time he's 31 or 32 and he's won one or two more championships and he's won probably one or two more MVPs, we honestly might be discussing him as the number one player of all time. With all that being said, that's going to be the video for me. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you leave a like. If you didn't, make sure you leave a dislike. Any feedback from you at this point is much appreciated. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.